If you want to invest in real estate, but you don't know where to start, today we're going to be talking about every single thing you need to do to prepare yourself before you buy your first rental. We're going to cover how to set yourself up financially, the habits you need to have, the fears and limiting beliefs you need to overcome, and the mindsets you need. This way you can buy your first rental property quickly and get to financial freedom faster. This is part one of my real estate investing course. It's going to be the most detailed and the most actionable course out there on real estate investing. It'll all be for free. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. This video is brought to you about SmartCredit and more on how they'll help you a little bit later. For those of you that know me, I'm Antonio and I help beginner real estate investors who don't know where to start buy their first rental property with a step-by-step process. I have 16 units. I've been investing for 3 years now and I have properties in 4 different states around the country. I know what it was like to be in your shoes. I'm not a millionaire. I don't have tons and tons of properties, but what I do know is exactly how you feel, and I've designed all of my content to be for that type of person. So let's start with our money. A lot of beginners come to me looking at real estate investing as a way for them to fix their crappy financial situation. They barely have any money saved, they got high credit card bills, very high debt, and it's all because they spend more money than they make. Even if you took the little bit of money you had and invested in real estate somehow, it would not fix your financial situation. This is why you need to set up a solid financial foundation before you even think about any passive income. Let's go over the different stages about this financial foundation pyramid that I created, and I'll give you exact action steps to get to higher levels. This way you can get started investing sooner. The first level is to get out of debt. If you got any credit card debt or student loan payments, this should be the first thing you tackle when thinking about your financial situation, because those things are not making you more money. On top of that, debt can bog you down emotionally. You can feel like that you'll never get ahead because you're always paying off old things that you had. And that affects your mindset, which is really important for investing, which is why we'll talk about that later. How can you think about spending money on an investment property when you're always behind? Now, I'm no debt expert, but I came up with 3 really strong tips that I use to help get out of my student loan debts and any credit card debt that I've ever had. The first thing is to prioritize the highest interest rate debt first. The highest interest rates are the ones that are costing you the most. With my student loans, I had 3 different student loans with 3 different interest rates. One at 3.4, one at 3.125, and one at 2.9. I made the minimum payments on the 3.125 one and the 2.9 one. And any leftover money I had, I just used it to pay down the 3.4 one, so that way that one would stop accumulating more and more interest at a higher rate than the other ones. Once I paid that one off, I then had the 3.125 and the 2.9% ones. So I made the minimum payments on the 2.9, and any leftover money I had, I used to pay off the 3.125 because I was trying to make sure that that wasn't accruing any interest. Then I repeated the same thing with the 2.9 one until I was out of debt. This got me to pay off my student loans in 2 years. This is even better because once you pay off the first loan with the highest interest rate debt, now you got all that cash that you were spending on that loan and being able to use it on the second and the third one. Snowball effect. This is what this is known as. And if you have credit card debt, this probably hurts you the most because these interest rates are usually like 15, 20, 25% on some of these credit cards. So pay those off first, typically before you got car loans or student loans. The second thing is to use debt consolidation. Debt consolidation, when you take multiple debts that you have and put them into one big loan with hopefully a lower interest rate. This can make the process of getting out of debt easier because instead of having to worry about paying 10 different loans, you get them all under one and hopefully lower the interest rate, reducing the amount that you pay. This will save you money and headaches and stress thinking about 10 different things than one. I've never had to do this because luckily I didn't have too many different types of debt out except for my rental properties. But my friend Kenneth actually runs a debt consolidation company and he can really help you out if you're someone who might take advantage of this. I'll leave a link to his page below. The third thing you can do is negotiate your rates and your payback periods. Sometimes you'll be able to negotiate your rates down if you've had a good history of paying in the past, but maybe you've had a rough couple months. The big thing here is that the banks want to make sure that you actually pay them back. It's more important that they get their money back than that they get a lot more interest on top. So they might actually reduce your rate. This way you can pay on time and actually have something that you can shoot towards. Or they may increase the time in which you owe the money. This way you can pay lower amounts over time. Now, I haven't had to do this, but I know real estate investors do this all the time with their different types of loans if their fix and flips don't go well. And most of the time, the lender just wants to get paid, so they'll accept. So if you're in debt right now, I want you to pause the video and write out one action that you're gonna take that will actually get you to start paying off your debt. One of the 3 things that I just taught you, or maybe it's something else you learned from someone else. Pause and take 2 minutes and do that. List out your action that you're gonna plan on doing right now. All right, well, good job. Now we've moved on to the second level of the financial foundation pyramid. It is fixing your personal cash flow. What is cash flow? Cash flow is the income that you make minus the expenses, and whatever's left over is your cash flow. If it's a positive number, it's positive. If it's a negative number, it's negative. This is what we use in in real estate to determine if a property is actually going to be a good deal. But personal cash flow is how much you're saving after all of your expenses. So let's say you make $4,000 a month from your job, but after all of your expenses, you end up spending $4,500 every month. That means every single month you're going $500 into debt. That's a $500 negative cash flow. What we want is a positive one because we need to have a surplus of money to start putting some to the side to build up a savings and then be able to invest. Even if you try to start investing in real estate when you have a negative personal cash flow, it will not work out well because learning how to have a positive cash flow is actually one of the most important skills for an investor. You'll just do the same exact thing when you pick a property. You'll buy one just because it's a property and you won't buy a good one to buy. So how do you fix your negative personal cash flow and make it a positive one? You either make more money to start covering all your expenses or you reduce your expenses so your income is greater than your expenses. Now, this is obviously way easier said than done, but we're going to make this as actionable and as detailed as you possibly can. So the first thing we'll do is start tackling your income. What I want you to do is pause the video right now, and I created a spreadsheet called the Money Tracker. I left a link for it in the description. You're going to download the sheet and write out all the income sources that you have. Now, most of you will only have one source of income. That's okay. We just need to figure out how much a month you make from it. And if you get paid annually, you could divide that number by 12 to figure out your monthly number, or you could check your paycheck to see how much you make. And then if you check your paycheck, multiply that by how many paychecks you get per month to see how much you make per month. If your income fluctuates like mine, then just use the last 6 months and pick the lowest number. So pause the video right now, download your spreadsheet, and add your sources of income in there. So now that we know how much we make, the next step is to come up with some new ways to make some extra income. Tony Robbins once said, "The quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of the questions you ask yourself." What does this mean? The better the questions you ask of yourself, the better your life will be. So you might think this next question that I'm about to ask you is really weird and would never happen, but that's okay because it's just meant for us to think creatively about how we can increase our income. So I want you to pause the video and ask yourself this question. If you had to find a way to make $10,000 more a month by the end of the month, otherwise someone would kill you, what would you do? Spend 5 minutes jotting down on a piece of paper all the ideas you have. Don't hold back at first with some of these answers. Write out everything you come up with without any of the excuses that will come up in your mind like, oh, I can't do that. And some of them are going to be ridiculous. Some of them will be wild and you'll never be willing to do them. Antonio, I don't want to sell my used socks on OnlyFans just so I could start making some money. Look, that's a creative idea, but maybe from that idea you take another idea about starting a clothing line. Or maybe it's you start making a YouTube gaming channel and you start selling some clothes as part of your merchandise. Whatever it is, no idea is a bad idea. Just use this to start thinking. Pause the video right now, take 5 minutes, and use this question to help come up with a list of ways that you can increase your income. I'm glad you took the time to actually do that. So if you really struggled to come up with some ideas, I decided to come up with some for you that are a little bit more generic. First is to start an online business selling a product. Right after I got my first job, I started an Amazon FBA business right outside of college. The purpose of this was to try to increase my income so then I can use it to start investing into things and so I could be financially free from that business. Boy, was I wrong. I failed. I lost $21,000. Me and that person are no longer friends. But here's the thing. At least I tried to do something outside of work to start making more money. My mentor at the time for this type of business was making $80,000 a month doing it. That's literally $1 million a year. That would have been a lot more income than I had even right now to start investing in real estate. Even if I was 1/10 as successful, it would have been great. The second thing you can do is freelance for what you do for your job on your off hours. I know because I used to be a software developer, there's tons of people looking for software development work for a small project that they have here and there. Sure, it takes some work to find clients and stuff like that, but guys, there's people out there that are looking for work. Even right now with all the tech layoffs, I just hired some developers and paid them $3,000 to build me something. No matter what your skill set is, you can find odd jobs on the side to help increase your income. Use your downtime for this. You have plenty of hours in the day. 3 is to Uber drive or do some of these delivery services on your downtime. This one's easy, but if you got a car or a bike and you're in a bike-friendly city, you might be able to deliver food to people, to pick people up, drive them around, or maybe you rent out your car on like a Turo, or maybe you rent out your house on Airbnb, maybe you deliver groceries for Costco. I don't know what it is, but there's so many different jobs you can do that are by the hour. You get paid a small amount, sure, but it is extra income to help you take home to start saving extra. 4th is to get a new job with higher pay. I once switched from one software engineering job at a company to another software engineering job at a company, increased my pay 25% in only 1 extra year of experience. And the 5th one is to learn a new skill set that pays more. After my first software engineering job and everything failed with my Amazon FBA business, I actually switched the skill sets that I learned to a very small niche in software development that a lot of people weren't doing. And so I was able to take my job from $66K and get $114,000 $1,000 job in 14 months from just learning that new skill set on my own time. So, given all of these ideas and the ideas we had before, I want you to ask yourself this next question. What is the one activity you can do to increase your income the most with the least amount of time? Spend 2 minutes coming up with one answer. This is important because I don't want you to spend lots of time and hours just working. I want you to work efficiently with your time as well. So pause the video and answer that question. Now, really important before we move on to all of our expenses, you should not be trying to blow all this new cash. It's really easy to make the mistake that when you make more income, you could spend more money. That's not what we're trying to do. Any extra income we make, we need to store and save in a savings account, which we'll talk more about later in the video. So now let's move on to your expenses. This part hurts, dude. I hate seeing people who work so hard for their money, but they have absolutely nothing to show for it after working 20, 30, 40, 50 hours a week. I get the feeling because when I had a job, I was blowing all of my cash for a long period of time because I was spending money on stupid stuff. And at the end of the day, I was like, am I just spending money to live? Because that's what it feels like right now. Like if I wanted to stop working, I could, but it didn't matter because I was, so I can keep living the lifestyle. I just wouldn't be able to buy all the stupid shit that I bought. Now, I get it. Not all of what you spend your money on is stupid, okay? Some things are necessary, but our job right now is to figure out where the hell we're spending all of our extra money. This way you can cut out the things you don't really need and keep the things you do need and a thing or two that makes you happy. I'm also not the type of person who's going to tell you to cut everything out of your life and just start eating ramen because that's just stupid. You need to do stuff and spend money on things that you enjoy. If you don't, then what the hell are you doing this life for? So the first action item we're going to need to do is you're going to spend 20 minutes going through all of your credit cards and bank accounts and write out all of your expenses in the last month. An easy way to do this is to use Mint. This is not sponsored by them, but it is a tool that I use to keep track of all my finances, and every time I'm trying to go through to cut stuff out, I use that to keep all of my accounts in one place. Now, I said to do this for 1 month, but if you really want to be good at this, you need to do this for all of the last year. The last year will show you everything. Now take that spreadsheet that you downloaded, head over to the expenses column and start writing in all the expenses that you have. For example, Spotify is at a monthly cost. You want everything to be written down at a monthly cost. Sometimes some things are written more than once a month. You want to convert that into a monthly cost. However many times you get groceries, if it's once a week, then multiply that by 4. That's your monthly cost. Amazon Prime, on the other hand, is something that takes me the entire year. So I have to divide that by 12 to get the monthly cost. This might take some time, but if you use Mint to connect your bank accounts, it should be able to save a lot. So pause the video right now and do the action step of writing out all of your expenses. So now that we have all of our expenses out on paper, we're gonna ask ourselves this question. If you got fired today and couldn't get another job, what would you have to cut out of your life in order to survive? Spend 5 minutes going down your list of expenses and cutting things out. Now here's the hard part. Actually go in and cut these things out of your life. I'm gonna give you some other ideas on how to reduce your expenses if you haven't thought of these yet. Cut out the subscriptions you're not using anymore. I had so many subscriptions that I sign up for like 1 month and then I forget to cancel, but I pay for the entire year. That's hundreds of dollars thrown down the drain that could be used for the next rental property. Next up is call up services that you don't need the full package for and instead get a lower price. Let's say you're paying for 1 gigabit internet connection, but you're never using anything more than 300, then lower your internet connection. Save $30 a month. Next is to switch companies to someone that offers a similar service for a cheaper price. I had Verizon, I was paying $95 a month or $90 a month for my phone bill, and then I switched to Spectrum, which uses Verizon's towers, and that saved me $45 a month because I had Spectrum Wi-Fi. Next is to select 1 or 2 categories that actually make you really happy when you're spending money. I like good food, so I don't really limit how much money I spend on good food. Now, I don't go out to eat every night, maybe once a week, but I love good food, so I will spend some money on that because that makes me happy. I also love buying technology, cameras, phones, laptops, you name it. So when I buy things that are technology, I typically don't limit my income there. But I hate vacations, so I don't like going on vacation, so I never like traveling or going anywhere because I'm weird like that. And so by doing that, I save a lot of money there where other people would spend money on things. And a lot of other people don't spend money on the tech and the food that I do. Next thing is to buy used items over new items. I can get a new used camera for my YouTube channel that's about $1,000 cheaper than the new one. And then also you can just do some things yourself that aren't that time consuming. Like just vacuuming the inside of your car instead of going to the car wash, or doing your own laundry instead of paying for a laundry delivery service. And it's really important that you actually spend the time to cut these expenses out. Use the motivation that you have right now while watching this video to do it. I don't care if you come back to the video. I'm willing to sacrifice the YouTube algorithm so you actually do these things, because this video goes to waste if you don't actually take action from it. And reducing your expenses is one of the biggest things you can do to help you grow as a business person long term. So pause the video right now, cancel some services that you got, that you listed out that you're going to cancel, and reduce the ones that you don't need much of. I set 2 action steps for this because I need to make sure that you actually do this thing. Now, before we move on, I want to talk about one mindset that actually used to help me reduce some of my spending. So let's say I wanted the new iPhone, and that costs $1,000, but I only make $50 an hour. What I started doing was equating the amount of time it took me to earn enough money to get that thing. So if I wanted to make $1,000 for a new iPhone, I would need to work 20 hours. And so instead of asking myself, do I want the new iPhone? I would say, is getting the new iPhone worth me working 20 extra hours? And so you end up saying no to a lot of things like, is that really worth 2 hours of my time? Is it really worth 3 hours of my job? And if you really don't like your job, you might get yourself to stop buying a lot of things so you can take that money and use it to start investing. Now, we should be at the point where you have at least gotten your cash flow, your personal cash flow, to the point where you're saving $100 a month minimum. So what we're going to be doing now is working on building an emergency fund and savings in order for you to then use that money to invest and be able to weather any financial storm. So the first thing we need to do is calculate 6 months of your expenses. So you're going to take the monthly expenses number that you had from the spreadsheet that we did in the last section with the expenses, and then you're going to multiply that by 6 to understand how much your monthly expenses are for 6 months. Because what we're going to do is use this 6-month savings as an emergency fund. So for example, if your monthly expenses were $3,000, multiply that by 6, and that means you need $18,000 saved up in an emergency fund before you start investing. The reason we do this is to make sure that you can weather any storm if you get laid off, or if you have some vacancies in your property, that you have an emergency fund to cover things. The more cushion you have, the more you'll be protected from any market crashes or anything going bad in your property, and you can keep going on. Now we need to figure out what our savings rate is. Our savings rate is basically a calculation to help us determine how long it will take for us to get there. So if, let's say you make $5,000 a month and your expenses are $4,000 a month, the calculation for savings rate is savings rate equals monthly income minus monthly expenses. So 5,000 minus 4,000 would be 1,000. So if your savings goal for your emergency fund is $20,000, then that means it'll take you 20 months to get to your savings goal. This is important because it gives you clarity to understand exactly how long it will take for you to get to where you need to be. So pause the video, calculate 3 things. What your emergency fund number is, which is your monthly expenses times 6, then take your savings rate, which is subtract your monthly income minus your expenses, and then calculate how many months it'll take you to get to number 1 using your savings rate. So now I'm going to give you 2 tips to make your savings a little bit more automatic. This way you don't have to think about it, because with any good habit, the more automatic it is, the less likely you will have to fight yourself to do the thing. And saving can be one of those things that is a little complicated and a pain in the ass. So the first tip is to use a direct deposit at your job. Almost every single job, at least now, has a way to direct deposit money into your bank account instead of actually handing you a paycheck or paying you cash. So you need to go into your employee portal and ask HR if you don't know how to do this, and set up direct deposits from your paycheck to go to a bank account that you will not touch. This is important, a bank account that you will not touch, because this is where your savings is going to go to. I'd say at least be trying to save 10% of your income. The more you save will be better for you. Now, every single month, you don't have to think about holding money in your bank account. Instead, the money goes to a different bank account that you're not touching. Now, how do you make it automatic so you don't just go in there and actually try to take the money out? What I recommend you do, create a bank account at a different bank, one that is different than where your checking and your money that you're going to access is. So for example, for me, I had my money in Capital One, but I created an American Express savings account. I then connected the bank account to my job to get the money from the job and kept storing $1,000 per paycheck and put it into there. And then I gave the account to my mom and I said, hey, change the password, and I'm not allowed to take any money out of this until I have enough money for my first rental property, which was $30,000. Spend 10 minutes and set up the direct deposit right now, and then give access to someone that you trust to the account. This way you can keep saving money at a really quick rate. Now you got a savings. Now it's time for you to start investing. So like normal people, and like what I did, you might start with other forms of investing that aren't real estate. This could be a good move. Things like stocks, bonds, crypto, you name it. Usually people tend to start with these types of investments first because they cost less money to get into. Maybe you'll set up a 401k with your job, or a Roth IRA, or regular IRA. Here's my thoughts. These could be great ways to make money, but they are more more longer term plays than real estate is. And you can retire early through these accounts, but you need to really know what you're doing, and it's going to be slower than real estate investing in most cases. So unless you plan on retiring through some of these forms of investing, I don't recommend that you do them as your main form of income. All of these forms of investing take a lot of expertise, real estate included, which is why I'm building this course, right? But if you wanted to get into those forms of investing, I highly recommend that you sit down and you study exactly what successful people do in those areas. Now, one thing you could do is actually use stocks and bonds and crypto to start saving, and then use that money to invest in real estate. So you get it to grow a little bit faster than inflation, hopefully. While it can be a good move, it can be risky. Just realize that these valuations can drop really quickly overnight, and you may lose all of the money that you thought you had for a rental property because the stock market decided to crash or crypto decided to shit the bed. So I would stay away from them unless if they're low risk investments, maybe like CDs or bonds. They may have lower returns, but at least they'll have hopefully better returns than money just sitting in the bank account. See, I even took the money out of my Roth IRA early because I needed the money to invest in my business, because otherwise that money would have been sitting there for 50 years and I wouldn't have touched it, and sure, it would have grown a little bit, but I wouldn't have needed it as much as the money I needed right now. Now, the cool part is you can actually use these other forms of real estate investing to help you invest quicker. So let's cover the ways you can actually use these other forms of investing to start saving money for a down payment. The first thing is you could use a self-directed IRA to invest in real estate. If you open up a self-directed IRA, you can use the money that's inside the self-directed IRA to buy a property with, and then it's like you have a rental property in your IRA versus a stock or whatever the hell else you wanted in there. But here's the problem is you can't touch that income until you retire. The second thing is that you can use $10,000 from your Roth IRA to buy a property that you're planning on living in. This is really nice if you're planning on house hacking, which is when you buy a property, you live in it for a year, use an FHA loan, you rent out the other bedrooms to friends or family, and then you move out, and now you got a rental property. So it can be a great way to have some of your down payment covered when buying a rental property to start. 3, take a hardship loan on your 401k of up to 50% or $50,000, whichever is less. Now, this one's a little bit more risky because you're taking a loan on your investments and you'll need to pay it back with interest, I believe within 3 years. So you should only use this if you absolutely need the money to start buying properties. And then the fourth thing you could do is borrow against your assets. There's companies out there that allow you to borrow against your stock portfolio or against your crypto portfolio. So let's say you have $100,000 in crypto, you could borrow like $20,000 from it, use it to start buying real estate, and you pay back that loan over time. Personally, I don't invest in any of these anymore. I have like a couple $1,000s in crypto that I lost to BlockFi. So I don't really bother putting my money in these places because my focus is to make my money through my business and my real estate. So I will put all my money into those. So now you should be at the point where you're saving money for your first rental property and you're ready to go. But how much money do you actually need to invest? If you're going to live in the property, a good rule is have at least $10,000 to start because you can get cheaper loans with living in the property. And if you're not going to and you're going to do something out of state, I'd say minimum $20,000 is what you need to start looking for a rental property out of state. But it's not exactly like that. There's a formula that you need. So wait till the 4th video in this series and I will break down exactly how to calculate it. But right now is not the time for it. Just start saving. Now, just having enough money isn't the only thing you need. You need to focus on 2 other things: the types of income you make and your credit score. Your credit score is needed when you're trying to buy properties. It's proof that you're actually a good borrower. Anyone who gives you a loan will likely look at your credit and try to base if you're going to be a good borrower based off of your credit score. That's what all credit scores are, is basically say, is this a good person to give a loan to? Now, what kind of credit score you need? For FHA, the minimum is 500 for 10% down and 580 for 3.5%. And then for investment property loans, usually anything in the mid 600s, around 620 and up is better. Now, if you get into 700s, you're going to have a better time, and 800s, obviously great time. But better credit gives you better loans. The higher your credit score, usually the lower your interest rate, and usually you'll have better terms. Like maybe you'll qualify for a lower down payment option, or maybe you'll have better payback terms or lower closing costs. Now, in order for us to actually fix our credit, we need to understand how credit is calculated. The first 35% is based on your payment history. Basically, when you pay on time, your score goes up, and when you don't pay on time and you miss your payments, your score goes down. This is why we talked about getting out of debt, because getting out of debt is the biggest factor on your credit score, which is important for you to get loans. Then 30% of your credit score is based off of the size of your debt. The more debt you have, the lower your score will be, and the lower your debt, the better. The more debt you have, it sounds like you're going to be a riskier borrower because you have to pay back all these other things. Then 15% of the score goes to the length of your credit history. This means the longer you've had accounts for and credit cards for, the better, because it shows that you've been borrowing for 10 years, right? I would trust someone who's been borrowing for 10 years more than someone I've been borrowing for 10 months. And so will the banks. So improve this. I had to learn this lesson the hard way, is don't close your credit card accounts when you've opened them. It hurts your length of history and it actually hurts your credit mix because you're affecting how long you've had these credit cards open for and the types of credit you've had. That leads us to the next one. 10% of your scores led to credit mix. They want to see some type of installment loan, think like a student loan or a home loan that has like fixed debt every single month, and credit cards, which is variable, which changes every month. So the way you maximize this is by having multiple types of loans. It doesn't make a lot of sense to have multiple types of loans open, but this is how the credit score system works. And the last 10% is your most recent history. So if you just applied for a new loan for a car, don't go applying for a mortgage a day later because it's going to affect your score. It's going to make it seem like that you're trying to get all these different types of credit cards and loans out right away, which might seem risky to borrowers. So if you're going to do stuff, do it over time. So here's some tips on how to actually improve your credit. First, pay your bills on time and in full. 2, lower your debt by paying down some of the principal on some of your loans. 3, don't close the accounts that you don't actually have to close. Leave them open so your credit history improves. 4, slowly open up new accounts. Don't go applying for 8 credit cards at the same time. It'll hurt your credit score. 5, when applying for a loan, don't look for multiple loans at the same time. If all this seems complicated to you, then I highly recommend you check out SmartCredit because they make boosting your credit score easy. If you wanted a personalized plan on how to boost your credit with exact actions you could take, you should check out their score builder feature. They even have a new feature called Score Boost where their average user in the first 3 weeks boosts their credit score by 61 points. Let's just run an example of how SmartCredit can improve your credit score when buying a house. So let's say you're person 1 who has a 635 credit score because they're not using SmartCredit. Let's say you're buying a $300,000 house with 3.5% down. That means you have a $289,500 loan. Let's assume you get an 8.5 higher interest rate. Over 30 years, that's $511,861 in interest you'll be paying, and you'll be paying an extra $300 per month. Instead, let's say you sign up for SmartCredit, take action on what they actually tell you, and you increase your score up to a 760. At 760, your rate for a new loan might be 7%. Over the 30 years, that would only be $403,878 in interest and $300 less per month. So person 2 saves $300 per month or $108,000 in interest over the 30 years. That means by working with SmartCredit to boost your score, you can save $108,000 in interest and have an extra $300 per month in your pocket. The service only costs $22.95 with my discount. Would you spend $22.95 to save $300 a month? I think so. So use the link in the description to try SmartCredit for 7 days for just $1. Now, it's not just credit that matters, it's also how you make your money that matters. Conventional banks like it if you have a W-2 job. They see it as secure. That's typically the best case scenario. 9-to-5 job with a W-2, has been doing it for at least 2 years. Now, if you switch jobs, don't worry. As long as it's in the same field within the last 2 years, you should be okay. What if you're a business owner like me or you get paid cash? There's other types of loans out there like DSCR loans. But if you are the business owner, I recommend you set up an S-Corp and start paying yourself with a W-2 because it can help you get conventional loans. Conventional loans are just easier for beginners to get started with. So if you're gonna do this, don't deduct a lot off your taxes doing that. Now, if I wanna say this, if you have bad credit, or you have a lot of debt, or you don't have a full-time job, don't worry, there's always different loan types out there for you. It will just be more difficult. My job in this video is to make it as easy as possible for you to get started. Having a job, having good credit, have savings is going to be the best way you can set yourself up to get a loan for a rental property. Trust me when I say this, the more of these things you have going for you, the easier it will be. So make sure to take the actions we talked about in this portion. The second section is about habits. What we're gonna cover is 5 habits to implement to become an amazing investor. The first one is constant self-improvement. Before I became a real estate investor, I was reading books all the time, watching YouTube videos, trying to constantly improve my productivity, my business skills, my investing skills, my financial skills, my relationship skills, my communication skills, my emotional skills, you name it. And constantly learning new things is a skill that you need as an investor. You're gonna need to learn new strategies for buying and selling properties. You're gonna need to improve your communication skills so you can keep networking with people. All of these things can come from books, courses, and mentors. Here are my 3 favorite book recommendations if you're starting out. One is Atomic Habits by James Clear. One of the best books on building habits that I know, which is gonna be really important for this series. 2, The One Thing by Gary Keller. It's the best book on productivity I know of. And 3, The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. A thick book, but it's got a large amount of information about how to actually achieve success in a lot of different ways. And then if you want my 3 favorite books for beginner real estate investors, which are a little bit biased, is the book on rental property investing by Brandon Turner, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. Again, he made this list twice. Both of these books are really great, have a lot of high level information, but if you want a more actionable guide, then I recommend my book, The Beginner Real Estate Investor Playbook, a step-by-step guide to buying your first rental property. All of these can be found on Amazon. Now, the key with constant self-improvement is not just learning, but it's also taking action on what you learn. You need to keep reviewing what you've done. It's important that as you're reading, you learn to apply the knowledge that you learned ASAP. The sooner you apply it, the sooner it'll stick in your head. Then you need to be able to review the actions you're doing. This is why I journal. I actually journal every single day on 3 pages. I write out what's going on in my life, my relationship, my business, and I start thinking, how can I improve it? I question the thoughts that I have. I question the limiting beliefs I might have. That time alone with myself really allows me to think about what I'm doing and decide where I'm going to move forward. This is not an easy process, and it's not something that ever ends. Self-improvement is a habit you're going to need if you're going to try to start any business, or if you want to be successful in anything, really. All the successful people are always improving themselves, so you need to also be improving yourself to keep up. The second thing is to take time out of your day to do work. Now you're like, Antonio, obviously I'm working, I have a job, but outside of your job, you need to be working because you need to spend time being an investor. Some people don't want to work more than 8 hours a day, and that's okay. If that's you, don't invest in real estate actively and invest in it passively, because everything great takes time when you're starting out. When I had a job, I would wake up at 5 a.m., go to the gym, come back, and then from 6 to 9, I would be working on videos and working on property stuff, and then I would go to my job, and then while I was at my job, I would be answering some texts and some calls about my property stuff, and then when I would come home at night, I'd be doing some stuff for my property stuff. It never ends, but I needed to schedule time outside of work. Now, it didn't start this way. I just started by working an hour or so when I came home from my job at first, and then I started building that time over time. So right now, if you work a full-time job, I recommend that you allocate at least 30 minutes a day working on your goals on the side. If that's investing, let's focus on investing. If that means reading books, if that means taking courses, if that means calling people or looking at properties, spend 30 minutes a day, put it in your calendar right now. The important thing is to do this without any distraction. No phone, no TV, nothing. The third habit you need to have is to become a planner. A planner is someone who thinks about the future and then plans the actions that they need to take in the short term and the long term to help get there. Don't worry if you're not one yet. You don't need to follow any strict rules or anything, but you can adapt to your own style to become a better planner. This is important because as you buy more properties, you're going to have more and more responsibility, more things you're going to need to handle. And so you're going to need to start thinking longer and longer term and planning out your days, weeks, months, and years ahead of time. And don't worry, nothing ever goes according to plan. But having a good idea of what's happening will prepare you for a lot of the things that you wouldn't have thought of if you're just taking everything day by day. When I was buying 3 properties at the same time in 3 different states, everything was hectic as crap. I had a job, I was making videos, buying 3 properties was just way too much. I was on the phone all day long. If I didn't plan out the things that I needed to do, I would have fell really far behind. Okay, so how do you actually become a planner? This is my hard planner, and every day I write out things on it about what I need to do. I split my day in half. On the right-hand side, I have things that I need to do every single day, like going live or lifting weights and any events that I have. These are things that don't take any creativity. The things on the left-hand side are going to be the things that are like me working on my business and really important tasks I need to handle for the day. Like for today, it was recording this video. Doing this allows me to see what I have going on in the day and making sure that I can keep track of everything by crossing that off my list. Writing this out takes literally 5 minutes before I go to bed. And then I use Notion to keep track of everything, right? This is a Kanban board that I use to keep track of all the tasks that I have to do with my products. And then I have a board that keeps track of all the things that I have to do in my life, okay? So I have business ones, real estate ones, health ones, you name it. I have a different board for every single thing so I can keep seeing everything ahead of time. It's really easy to keep track of whatever's going on in my life. Again, this is not sponsored by them. This is just how I'm able to keep track of things going on. Then every week I'll do some review to make sure that everything is good. The next habit is spending less than you make. And this one's pretty obvious because we covered a crap ton of this in the last section, but obviously you need to start spending less money than you make because this habit will allow you to save more money and buy more properties quicker. And the last habit is value-based networking. Value-based networking is when you meet new people for the first time, but not because you need them in your life. You may need to connect with a private lender, or you may need to meet a real estate agent to help you find a property in a certain area. But if you go to these meetings and networking events, hunting for that type of person, I promise you will not find them. Start with a value-based approach, I want to help you. I want to help you. How can I help you? You will find the right people you're looking for, and it'll be a lot easier. So when you're talking to people, ask them about their goals, ask them about their worries, their fears, frustrations, and their struggles, and figure out where you can help. When I was a software developer, I would always offer people help technology-wise because there was always people that needed help as a software developer. But I'll give you an example about this meetup I've been going here in Austin. I posted a few videos about it here on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. I've been going to this meetup. They want more people to come to the meetup. They feel like more people should come, and I think it's a great meetup. They give so much information that's free, and I want to help my audience know about it. So I was like, hey, I'll record the meetings. I'll talk about it on my page because I think it's good for my audience to go to. You know, it's free. If you live in Austin, it's great. And so I'm trying to help them by creating content about what their meetup is about so we can get more people to there. And after the first time of me doing this, we had 3 new people show up to the meetup from my videos, and that was amazing. It felt great for me to do it, and it felt great for them that they actually got someone to help. Now, I don't need any of their help right now, but maybe sometime down the line, I need someone to lend on a property or someone that they know can help me in their network. I don't care. I'm not doing it because I want something from them right now. I'm doing it because I want to genuinely help. And that's the important mindset behind value-based networking. You cannot do it for selfish reasons. Okay, the next section is about fears and limiting beliefs, and we're going to talk about what I think are the top 5 fears and limiting beliefs that beginners have. We're going to talk about how to overcome them. A quick note about fears is that most of them are subconscious, and what most people try to do is try to talk themselves out of the fear. That usually doesn't work, okay? You typically will keep talking and talking, have the same problem year after year after year. That's because you're trying to work on 2 different levels. You can't work on the conscious level and affect things at a subconscious level. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna list the fear, and then we're gonna talk about the logical explanation why it's not true. And then I'm gonna take you through an exercise that's gonna sound really, really woo-woo. But I promise you that these techniques that I learned are techniques that I use every single day to overcome limiting beliefs and fears that I have in every single area in my life and whatever is blocking me. And I'm no expert in them, but I think it's really important for me to have them here because I've gotten coaching from people on this stuff and it has been life-changing. So all I ask is that you try. Let's go over the first fear. It's the fear of taking on debt. I grew up in an immigrant family and my family hated debt. Dave Ramsey talks about how debt is always bad. Here's the truth. All of the real estate gurus that you follow, all of the entrepreneurs you follow, most likely took on debt in order to get to where they are. And they probably are still in some form of debt. The way you need to start looking at debt is that it's not bad or good. Debt is just a tool that allows you to scale quicker. And here's how you know the difference between good debt or bad debt. If the debt that you take on can actually make you more money to cover that debt, then it's good debt. Otherwise, almost all other forms of debt are bad debt. Let's look at a really simple example, a car loan. Let's say you got a really nice car with a loan and that costs you $600 a month. Now, how does that car make you any money? In most cases, it doesn't. In fact, it actually costs you more money because you got to pay insurance and gas or electric. Shout out Tesla gang. So a car would be bad debt. But instead, what if you got the car and then leased it out on Turo for $1,000 a month? Then you would be making $400 a month in profit. Then that debt would become good debt because the car is actually making you more money than the debt costs you. Now, this is the same for any kind of debt you have. A rental property is good debt if the rental property makes you more money than the debt costs you. The more good debt you take on, the quicker you can keep getting more cash flow and more profits because you're using other people's money to get you more money. Now, enough from a logical mind perspective. Let's try to tackle this from a subconscious mind perspective. We're going to do something known as EMDR. Just do what I tell you to do and follow along. First, I want you to close your eyes and think about the fear you have about taking on a lot of debt. Feel in your body where it might be. For me, I feel it in my arms, down the sides of my shoulders. And it might feel really scary to think that you're millions of dollars in debt. Now I want you to rate that emotion on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being, I really hate taking on debt, and 1 being, it doesn't bother you that much. So you're going to take your right hand and point it outward, like point straight out. Have your eyes focus on the finger as you move it left and right. So first I would move it left, then I would slowly move it right, following my finger. See, I just yawned. It was actually relaxing the fear I had around debt. So I might keep doing this a couple of times, going back and forth slowly with my eyes. And then I might go top right, bottom left with my eyes, top right, bottom left, top left, bottom right. And you might notice you might feel more relaxed. So now what I want you to do is close your eyes and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And if that number dropped, then congrats. You have worked on your limiting belief. Let's say it was a 10 before and now it's an 8. You've reduced the effect of the limiting belief on you by 20% in the matter of seconds. And it's also possible that the number out of 10 didn't change for you. That's okay. You can try some of the other techniques on this. I know it feels really weird, but I've been doing this stuff for a little over 2 years now, and it's been a game changer on how quickly I can overcome beliefs that I've had for 10, 15 years in like the matter of days or weeks. The next fear is the fear of not being able to trust other people. I struggled a lot with this one because everyone in my family owned a business, but they all had like 1-man or 2-man shows in their business because they could not trust anyone. My dad's a contractor, has had 1 employee for 20 plus years. My uncle has a solar business, and I don't think he has many employees, if any. My other uncle owns a trucking company, and I'm pretty sure he has like 1 or 2 drivers. My uncle owned a barbershop, and he was the only person doing the haircuts except like maybe one other person. If you want to be successful in real estate investing, you're gonna need other people to help you. In order to get them to help you, you need to trust them first. You're gonna need real estate agents, lenders, lawyers, wholesalers, insurance companies, you name it. One thing that helped me realize that people actually can be trusted is looking at some of the larger companies. So let's look at Apple and Amazon. You think Tim Cook actually assembles the iPhones and the MacBooks and the iPads himself? Hell no. He's got people doing the work for him. Not only building it, but he's got people selling it for them, people marketing it for them, everything. Do you think Jeff Bezos actually delivers all the products on time to people? No. He set up systems in place and he's trusted people to get the job done and deliver the packages. Why can these people entrust their employees? Because those people get paid based off of doing a good job. If those people do a bad job, then they're not going to get paid. Same thing with you in real estate. If you end up working with property managers and they don't get you tenants, guess what? They don't get paid. If you aren't happy with a good job with a contractor, guess what? They don't get paid. They may make some money in the short term, but long term, they will lose money if they don't do a good job. There's always going to be a couple bad apples and you won't be able to prevent them all. But realize that most people are good and they want the money, so they will do a good job. But you might be the type of person that's like, hey, I want to do everything myself because I want to be investing in the properties and controlling my outcome and managing them myself. If that's you, that's fine, but just realize that real estate will not be as passive as you want it to be if you're managing it yourself. You've gotten yourself another job. And here's the thing, you don't have to just work with someone and trust them with everything. You're not giving them your business all up front. You trust them with something small first. You get a contractor to do a $5,000 job versus a $40,000 job first. You work with one property manager on one property. You don't just trust them with every single thing that you have right off the bat. You trust small, and then they verify it by backing up what they could do, and then you back them up by giving them more trust. Another perspective is that let's say you go out to dinner. You trust the restaurant to cook you good food because you're paying for their service. You don't go back into the kitchen and meet the cook and be like, is this how you're gonna cook my steak? Because I usually cook it like this, and you're not gonna take over and do it yourself. That would make no sense. You just trust them to do a good job. So let's tackle this from the subconscious because I could talk at you all day. What we're gonna do is known as the TAT pose. First, close your eyes and then imagine yourself hiring a contractor out of state. Let's say you hire them, they take your money, and they run away with it. Feel how bad that would be to lose all your money and to trust someone and have that trust broken. Rate that feeling on a scale of 1 to 10. Now you're gonna take your ring finger, put it on one side of your nose, your thumb on the other side of your nose, and then put your middle finger on the top of your forehead, and then put your other hand behind your back like this. And you're gonna breathe out, and as you breathe out, you're gonna say, I can't trust people. I can't trust people. There's no way I can trust people. I'm gonna get screwed over by them. All right. You might need to sit there and do a couple more breaths. But now open up your eyes and feel the emotion on a scale of 1 to 10. If it dropped, good. If it yawned, good. If your body shook a little bit, good. These are good signs that you're clearing that belief and clearing that limiting thing holding you back. What I would do is repeat the exercise down until it gets to a 1. The next fear is the fear of buying a property and having it cost you thousands of dollars because you made a mistake. So basically your fear of making a mistake. This is what my whole page is about. Most beginners are afraid of making a mistake, just like I was when I started out. You're putting your life life savings into a property, and the last thing you want to happen is have you lose all of it. What if I told you though that you can do a lot of work ahead of time to minimize a lot of the risk that you might take on? The beauty about real estate is that it's based a lot on numbers. I can see what other houses in the neighborhood sold for. That will tell me on average how much my house will sell for. I can see what other houses in the neighborhood rent for. That'll tell me how much on average my house will rent for. You can even choose to assume that you're not going to be able to sell or rent your house for as much as everyone else to be a little bit more conservative. You can get an inspection on the house to make sure everything's okay. You can get an agent or lawyer to write up a contract to protect you. You can get insurance on the home and warranty on the appliances. There's so many things you can do to protect yourself and your investment. If you fear making a mistake, then use these things to protect yourself. This way you can make sure you are not making a mistake and minimize your risk ahead of time. For this next subconscious fear, we're going to work on using what's known as tapping. You basically tap different points in your body that correlate with meridian points where you would store emotions, and by tapping there and saying phrases, you tend to release them over time. So what I want you to do is close your eyes, imagine yourself buying a property and it completely shitting the bed, and you spending all your money on it. Rate that feeling on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, now open up your eyes. Repeat the phrases as where I tap on the body. Tap on the side of your hand. You could do either hand, it doesn't matter. I'm afraid of buying a property and making a mistake, and I choose to deeply and completely love, honor, and accept myself and maybe anyone else who's made me feel like I'm afraid of making a mistake. I'm afraid of making a mistake on a property. I'm really afraid of making a mistake on a property. The last thing I want to do is buy a property and spend thousands of dollars on it and just have it fail. I want to be a successful investor. So I'm clearing this fear. I'm clearing this fear of buying a property and making a mistake, because I can learn the right things to do, because I can protect myself with insurance, with inspections and analyzing my deals, by getting a good contract, a good lawyer and contractor. And so I'm taking the right actions to protect myself. Clearing this feeling all the way back through my past and through my childhood of any time I was afraid of making a mistake. In body, mind, and spirit. Now you take a deep breath. Feel in your body where you might feel the emotion of being afraid of making a mistake, and rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Hopefully it's dropped. Again, guys, with any of these types of fears or emotions, you can change out the fear or emotion and change out any technique that we've learned, and you can do them. And if you want to check out my friend Brad on YouTube, he has hundreds of thousands of followers and has a tapping video on almost every single thing you could possibly do. Check his page out there. The next fear is the fear of getting bad tenants. You might fear getting tenants that are going to destroy your property, never pay rent, you'll have to evict them, they'll never move out, cause you tons of headaches and issues, and maybe you'll just be stuck paying the mortgage on the property. Remember what we said about trusting people. Most people are good people. Most people are looking for places to rent. I rent where I live, and I'm not an irresponsible person. You might have rented before, and you might not have been an irresponsible person. If you really think about it, most people that rent are not irresponsible people. Now, we can't prevent all bad tenants. We can do a lot ahead of time to minimize our risk, to get the best tenants possible. This way, we avoid this altogether. This is why I use property managers. A property manager is someone who's supposed to be a professional in doing this. They do background checks, credit checks, eviction checks to make sure that their income is stable. If they got a good income, if they have nothing bad on their record and they have a good source of income and a decent credit score, chances are they're going to be a good person who's going to want to rent your property and not cause you any problems. These people might end up staying there and bring you 5 to 10 years of good income. You could also invest in areas that have lower crime and lower unemployment rates. This way people have jobs and can pay you. Now, for this next one, we're going to do havening on the fear of getting bad tenants. So for this one, you're going to close your eyes, imagine getting your first property, the tenant doesn't pay you rent, they light the place on fire, let's say, and they don't pay you. You're going to rate that emotion on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, open up your eyes and repeat after me. You're gonna take a deep breath, put both of your arms on both of your shoulders, and you're gonna brush down the sides of your arms. So you're gonna do like this. 1. I'll count. Just keep breathing. We're gonna do 20 times. All right, once you're done, shake it out. Rate the emotion on a scale of 1 to 10 of getting bad tenants, and come back to the room. Good job. You reduced some of your emotions around getting bad tenants. And the last fear we're gonna cover is the fear of the market crashing. This is scary, especially right now because it's 2023 when I'm recording this, and people are really worried about the housing market crashing. When I started out, I was scared too because I thought I'm gonna buy this house and then I'm gonna get stuck with this house. I won't be able to sell it. And if I sell it, I'm gonna lose a lot of money. But here's the truth. Who says that you actually need to sell the house? What if you bought the property today and it makes you $300 a month? Let's say that the market crashes the day after you buy this property. Let's say the value drops 50% because the market crashed, which never happens, by the way, because real estate's a lot slower than the stock market. It's not like stocks. If you do that, the house is rented out and you got some extra money in savings just in case if something goes wrong, you'll probably be able to ride out the down market, because if you look at the housing market over time, it goes like this. It has its ups, its downs, its ups and downs, but it keeps going up, just like a lot of the other markets. This is exactly why I focus on buy and hold investing, because it's safer in a lot of the down markets. So for this one, we're gonna do feel the finger. First, close your eyes, feel what it's like to buy a house and then having almost all the value disappear because the market crashed. You just wasted all your money on this property. Good, feel how scary that might feel. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, open up your eyes. You're gonna take out your middle finger like this. You're gonna place your thumb in the middle of your middle finger. This is called feel the finger. So now you're gonna move this around your body and feel where it kind of feels like a magnet almost. You'll move it around your body and then you'll feel like you need to yawn in certain places. And when you're yawning, it actually helps release the emotions behind it. Keep moving around. It might be in a few different places. This one's one of my favorites. So if you've had any other fears or worries, leave a comment below, because I'm always trying to collect these to make sure that I'm building something really comprehensive and you can be in the next version of the course. All right, so this last section is on mindsets. And we're gonna talk about the 5 mindsets you need to have to become a great investor. The first mindset is to buy assets, not liabilities. A liability is something that you buy that costs you more money over time, aka like the car example we gave earlier. Now, an asset, on the other hand, is something that you buy that makes you more money over time. Usually these things appreciate, meaning they go up in value, but also they throw you off cash regularly, aka cash flow. So an example of this would be a rental property or an ATM or a business that allows you to be passive. Most people, when they want something, they want a liability. So they go out and they spend the money that they make from their job and get a liability. Instead, the way you need to shift your mind is, if you want a liability, then what you need to do is ask yourself, what assets can I buy to go buy and afford this liability? So for example, let's say you want a really nice car and that car costs you $1,000 a month. Instead of spending $1,000 a month on the car, what I want you to do is to think about, oh, I can get that car if I buy myself 4 rental properties that cash flow $250 a month. Boom, just like that, the car is being paid for by the assets that you bought. Now, obviously, that method takes a lot more work and time, but it's actually rewarding that way, because you're working to buying properties to actually get the things that you want to get, right? It's actually more exciting that way. For example, in order for me to motivate myself to go TikTok live, I like playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards, so I bought myself a box of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Every time I get to go live, I get to open up 1 pack. That motivates me to go live. The second mindset you need to have is that time does not equal money. Value equals money. Growing up, jobs and schools teach you that time is equal to money. You get a job, you show up on time, you leave on time, and you get paid. The only reason why that exists is because you are exchanging your time for money, because your time is valuable, but not all time is equally valuable. Money is only exchanged exchange when value is exchanged. And so to make more money, you need to focus on providing more value first. If your rental is not getting rented, focus on making it a higher value rental for a tenant. Add more things to it. Add appliances. Rehab it. Do what you got to do to make it more cash flowing by providing more value. Here's the trick. You might have to actually spend time to invest in making yourself more valuable by improving your skills. This way, you can increase the amount of value you're outputting over time. Remember when I said I left my job and I was able to increase the amount of pay by almost twice the payout? It was because I invested time in learning new skill sets that actually helped me get there. Sometimes you'll need to buy books, courses, or mentorships, and that will cost money and time. But you're trading that for value, that then the value will be in you, that then you can give to others, which makes you more valuable per second every single day. The third mindset to have is long-term thinking. When I buy a property, I'm always thinking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years out. Real estate isn't a magical thing that's going to happen overnight for you, 5 to 10 years minimum, okay? But when you buy a property, I'm focused on keeping it for the longest long period, okay? Potentially after I die and giving it to my kids, if I even have them. You should think about real estate that way, because if you only think in 1 to 3 year time frames, you're probably not going to be making a lot of money in profit, because real estate's a long-term game. My friend bought a house here in Austin and now he's moving 2 years later, and guess what? It's not going to be very profitable for him to have that house because the market happened to dip. So now he's stuck with a property that's not cash flowing very well, and he had to move because he only thought in a short time frame it hurt him. This doesn't only apply to real estate, it applies to every other area of your life. In your relationships, the more value you provide to people over time, the more people will like you and want to be around you, and the more that you can ask for anything back over time as well. It's like giving in order to get. This is based off of our value-based networking that we were talking about earlier. The more you help people, the more you will get what you want in life. I really believe that. My mentors believe that, and I've seen it happen in my life, even with this YouTube channel and the TikTok and the Instagram. And the last way this happens is in your everyday situations. Ask yourself if the decision you're making today is actually going to support yourself in the long term, not just the decision you're making for the short term. So for example, a few months ago, we were trying to fix up something in our properties. It was the roof, I think, and my dad, who's one of my partners on the property, he was saying to just do the short-term thing, like just quickly fix up the hot water heaters. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to invest more money now. This way it would be less headaches over the next 5 to 10 years. Because for me, that's more important. Less headaches so we can scale quicker. Because I'm thinking long-term. My dad was only thinking about, it's $2,000 now. But if I spend $2,000 now, it might have to be $2,000 again a year from now and a year after that. When it's better to just spend the $10,000 now instead of $2,000 5 times in a row, right? And a non-real estate example would just be choosing to be nice to all people you come into contact with. I get so much hatred in my DMs and my messages. I try to be nice where I can. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I get triggered by these people because like you're getting messages like fuck you randomly on a Tuesday afternoon is not what I want. But I try to be nice to these people because you never know when you're gonna need them. You never know when your roads are gonna cross and when you're gonna need to be on the same side. And this applies to every single person in your life. Police officers, waiters and waitresses, anyone you run into. The next mindset you need to have is to take one small step at a time. Again, real estate is a 5, 10, 15, 20 year game before you can be financially free. Day in and day out, you're gonna be working on that goal. Whether it's dealing and maintaining with the properties you do have or scaling and trying to get more, there's always gonna be things that come up. It's not 1000% passive. And there's gonna be times in your life where you're actually getting more work done and being really productive and getting a lot of results. And there's gonna be other times where you're not getting that many results. Right now, I'm going through one of those phases where I'm not getting that many results. I haven't bought a property since last July because we're saving money for this Florence Airbnb, and I haven't gotten clarity on exactly how much money I need, so I haven't been able to buy a property there. My audience hasn't been growing that much, so I'm trying new things. But for all of 2021 and 2022, I experienced a massive growth period. My portfolio doubled, my following went up by 600,000, like crazy, crazy stuff. I was still working the entire time, taking one small step at a time, but right now it might not show. So don't focus all on the results. Take one step at a time, day by day, and you will keep improving. And the last thing is you make money when you buy. Most people think that you make money when you sell a property. While that feels like it's the case because that's when you actually get the money, that's not the case really. When you buy a property, you have to do the math ahead of time to see if the property is actually going to make you money. If it doesn't, and it won't, then when you buy the property, you can't do much to change that scenario. You can't take a bad property and turn it into a good one once you've bought it. We'll talk more about this in the 5th video in the course where we break down exactly how to tell if a property is a good deal. This is why it's really important for you to understand this now, because the mindset is when you buy properties, you make money. And you'll never really know 100% when you're buying a property. But again, like I said, we're going to do as much math and work ahead of time to make it clear that you're gonna do your best to prevent any issues from happening, so this way you can actually make profit. The goal of this video is to prepare you to get ready to buy your first rental property. The next video in the course will be all about setting goals, the basics, and covering every single investing strategy. So this way you can pick the best one for you. Click the playlist on screen to watch the next video in the course. If you need any links from the stuff we talked about in today's video, they're all in the description. And make sure to check out SmartCredit to help boost your credit. I'll catch you all in the next one.